Good morning from Warrior TV. I'm Kerry Burr, the Human GPS, and we are joined this morning from a lovely lady from New South Wales in Australia. And we'll be back right after this. Good morning, this is Warrior TV, the voice place for the mental health warriors, and today I'm very pleased to be joined by Veronica Pearson. Good morning, Veronica, or good evening.
Good morning. Well, it's good evening for us over here, Kerry. Yes, it's 7:30 over here. Yes.
Absolutely, yes, and at least it's not too unsociable a time for you.
No, look, I can deal with 7:30 of a night time. As I was saying to you earlier, when we hooked up to organize this, I actually hadn't thought of the time difference at all. So when it came through and I saw that, oh dear, we're going to be not in the same place at all. And it was, I think we're 10 hours difference. So I thought we can work with that. That's cool.
Excellent. That's fabulous. Yeah. So Veronica, tell us a bit about you. About me.
So I have been married 30 years this year. And I was pretty much a teenage bride. So that is probably one of my life achievements so far. I had a great childhood, and I was a farm kid and grew up on a dairy and a cattle farm. And so I had the freedom of choice as a child, and I got to daydream and create my world throughout my day. And I would just pack my horse and off I go. And then, life happened and I became a mum and got into a career, and I've tried a few things and had a lot of fun and had failures along the way. And I became a grandmother 3 years ago to a little lady, and I have sons and brothers. So having a little lady is something a little different, but I would not change this little lady at all. She's amazing.
Oh, bless. That sounds lovely.
Yes.
Wonderful. I like the idea of growing up on a farm.
Oh, it was awesome. It was so fun.
And I love the idea of being able to create your own world, your own life.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you've actually done that right the way through, or was that something that you perhaps only experienced as a child?
No, Kerry, I would have to say I have created my own life all the way through. If I've had opportunity that aligns with me, I will grab hold of that opportunity. Has it been the right opportunity? Not always, but at the end of the day, failure is only feedback. I don't see failure as an issue. I just see it as part of your journey to create and be where I am right here, right now. So for those who know me really well, I am a rule breaker and I'm somebody who doesn't conform. So I still bring that sense of freedom with me every day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds fabulous. So tell me a bit more about the farm life. I'm curious.
Oh, farm life. Well, I was, and I still am, I have 3 brothers and I was the only girl. Mm-hmm. So I grew up as a tomboy, and if it moved, I chased it. If it could be caught, I would catch it. I just had a sense of adventure that, I would pack my horse up and we would go adventuring all day in gorges and chasing kangaroos and having a whole lot of fun. And I just created this world. Some days I'd be a bush ranger. Some days, I was a cowboy or a cowgirl, whichever way you want to look at that. It was just a great life, I had animals. I also, even throughout growing up, because the property that we lived on also had other families. So jackaroos and jillaroos and station hands, and that my dad was a station hand on the property that we grew up on. And I then decided through my school holidays that I would become a jillaroo with the rest of the male workforce that was there. So I learnt to fence, and I learnt to muster, and I learnt to castrate a calf and milk cows, and all sorts of things. All sorts of fun things, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And I thought early on in my career of a teenager that I wanted to be a race car driver.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I thought that I wanted to become a race car driver, or a truck driver, or a butcher. So none of those actually happened, though.
Isn't it strange how quite often many of us have these aspirations when we're young children growing up, and then we actually end up doing something completely different.
Yeah,
completely
totally.
different. Yeah, I just want to say a big hi to those that have tuned in and are leaving a few messages here. We've got Adam and Kerry Duval here, which is great. We've also got Rob Gray and Michelle Webb. Michelle's saying chasing kangaroos. And Rob Gray seems to like the tight rubber bands. I'm sure that'll mean something to you. And he's saying hello. Hi, hello, Rob. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so Veronica, obviously you didn't become a butcher, I'm presuming, or a race car driver.
No.
So tell us how your life went. What road did you take once you obviously finished your education, your schooling, and got married and had your children? How has life changed for you since then?
So as I mentioned earlier, Kerry, I got married during year 12. So that's our last year of high school here in Australia. So I got married in the middle of the year. So not one to do anything by the rules. So I've always done everything pretty much back to front. So I did my HSC, and we had our first son at the end of the year. So 1 month after finishing my HSC, I had Nick, and then I had our second son 3 months before I turned 21. So I was a really young mum. And I suppose at that stage, you're thrown into something that, for me, I wasn't a really maternal kind of person, but I knew where my path needed to be. And that's what I actually wanted. I wanted to be a young mum. And my husband at the time, who is still my husband, he was like, oh my God, no, we can't have kids. Your father will kill me. And I'm just like, well, it's not my father's choice. This is my life, and I choose to live this life. So we had little boys, and Mark would work, and I was a mum at home, and I took on family daycare. And that's where other little people come in, and you look after them too and love on them. But I didn't see that as a full-term thing. It was just something that was able to bring in income while I could still be at home with my own boys. So once school happened for them, I got a job in a pub, and I was what we would class as a dish pig. So I just peeled potatoes and washed plates and ran meals. And it really worked well, because I only had to be there a couple of days a week from 9 till 3. I could drop the boys at school. I could be at home for the boys. So not to be outdone, though, I am somebody who will work from the bottom and work her way to the top. So I then came in as more of a full-time kitchen hand, and then there was an opportunity to be the pub chef. So I took on being the pub cook also for a couple of years. And I also then decided, well, if I'm going to be in a pub, I might as well learn how to pour beers. So I also learned how to pour beers, which was a really great time to be able to be flexible with the hours. So I was looking at that as a purpose to serve a purpose. Then I decided I didn't want to be in a pub for all my life. I'd looked at a few people that had been in pub for a very long time, and it's a hard life, and you become very hard, and I saw people coming quite cynical, I suppose, and just the joy had sort of left them. And I thought, that's not for me. So on a whim, I applied to be a second in charge in a shoe shop. Now, I'd never had retail experience. I had never had any other experience except serving in a pub. But I applied for this job, and I rocked up and had the interview, and I got the job. So that was really, really awesome. And that was my introduction to sales. And that was probably my introduction to my career path. And from there, after 18 months, I became 2IC of this company, big company here in Australia. And I got my first promotion into a store about 9 hours away from my hometown of Armidale. And I sort of looked at my family, and I thought 9 hours away from your core, your support system might be a little bit too tough. So I actually turned it down. And I thought, if this is meant to be, something will come across my path down the way. And it wouldn't have been 3 weeks later, Tamworth came up, which is an hour away from my support system. So I took Tamworth. And now the really interesting thing here is I made my husband move. So in order for me to take the career and take the manager's role that I wanted, my husband had to sacrifice his job. So I'm grateful that he did that. But it was quite interesting to sort of lean in and hear some of the feedback around, well, you shouldn't have to move because you're the male. It should be the woman that moves for the male. So that was quite interesting. And I was very successful as a store manager, and I created an amazing team, and we had some amazing wins, and I had an amazing support system within that team. And I still am connected to my district manager, who actually put a lot of belief in me when at times I didn't think that I could actually do this job, because it was pretty much 3 times the size of the store that I'd come from. And this was my first step into management. And I, feeling vulnerable at the time, and when we have that self-doubt, we just think that, we just go deeper and deeper and deeper. And I'll be forever grateful to her. And she leaned in, she supported me, she helped me with my wings, she gave me what I needed in order to know that I could do it, and off I went. And I decided that I got to where I could within the company, other than moving to the city. And that wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted for my family. So I didn't take the next step from that. So I went into real estate, and I enjoyed real estate actually, because once again, it was the sales. I enjoy the sales, and it's definitely has never been the money around the sale. That to me is the end of the product. What it is, it's me being able to actually serve my customer or my client in the best way to help them with the product that they're looking for. And I was really successful. But there was a bit of a misalignment with the principal and myself when it came to values. And after 2.5 years, he had sort of sucked the life out of me a little bit. And I didn't know whether or not I was great at sales or great at people. So I went back to retail because that was my jam, and I got back in with the same company. So that was really good. I was a relief manager. I then decided that I had got unfit and had, focused on everybody else. And my boys at this time were about 16. So they were becoming really quite self-reliant and sufficient to be able to get themselves sorted. So I then decided to reclaim wasn't so much about the fitness, Kerry. It was about my mental capacity, because I felt that being in real estate had actually sucked my strength out of me mentally. And this is where I was saying that I had a lot of self-doubt as to if I was actually good at sales, if I could communicate with people. So I actually got back into fitness. And I had been out of fitness for a very long time. And I reconnected, And I got fit during this time, and I couldn't run 25 meters without bending over and gasping for air. And I then was able to run 5K and put what we have here in town, not in town, in Australia, in Sydney, is a run called City to Surf. And you go from the middle of Sydney out to Bondi, and it's about 14 Ks. So that was the goal that I set in around to get fit. So I did that. And in the meantime, I was still in retail, working around there. And I came across a quote yesterday that reminded, it's a David Goggins quote. And it's about, at times, we are pushed to quit. But it's what we do next is the most important thing that we ever do. So during this boot camp, here I was, the unfittest, and within this group, and we had to run up this hill. It was probably about, it looked like 100 meters, but look, it probably wasn't. It was more like 50. We had to do it 10 times, and I was the slowest and that. And by the time I'd done it 3 times, I was on my knees and I was crying. My head was in the dirt, and I was just like, poor boy me, Anyway, my trainer came up to me and he put his hand on my back and he goes, oh, it's okay, Ronnie. He said, you can go down, walk back down. He said, and walk around the car park. He said, and just wait for us down there. You'll be all cool. And so I sort of looked at him and I'm walking down. I'm having this conversation with 2 people in my head. And it's like, okay, this is going to be a defining moment for you, and you're going to have to work out what you're going to do here. The next thing that you do is going to determine your path in your future. And it's funny how if you're open to listening to your messages, or you're aware of what's going on around you, there's a lot you can learn. And so I'm walking down and I got to the bottom and I just turned around and said, I'm coming back up. And I did all of those 7 extra runs that I had to do. Yeah, they hurt. Yeah, I wanted to vomit. Yeah, it was horrible. But that feeling of achievement and accomplishment, pure grit and determination, Kerry, stays with me to this day. So when I need to tap into that grit and determination, I've got that defining moment to know that I'm sorted and I can back myself.
That's kind of really key, isn't it? Knowing that you've done it before.
Yeah.
And when you've achieved something that, to those of us who aren't as physically fit and certainly not into running, that's like, I off to you for that. I really
Look, I'll tell you a secret. I'm not into running anymore.
Well, okay. But it's digging deep into your mental capacity, I suppose, isn't it? Is one of the easiest ways of explaining it. So I mean, whilst we're on the subject of exercising and really pushing ourselves, that I mean, that's real determination, isn't it? Real determination. And I know that exercise particularly is linked with helping our mental health. Now I'm pleased to hear, very relieved to hear actually, that at no time have you appeared to experience any real adversity with mental health. But equally, there's, as I say, that determination. That our mental and our physical health are linked, aren't they?
I totally 100% believe. Definitely believe. And I've had people in my family that have had to be supported through medication, through anxiety, or through depression at times through their life. And the first time that it came into my space, I asked this loved one, what is your plan? Because I didn't go to the doctor session with them. And I said, so what's the plan out? Because I only ever see it as a Band-Aid. I only ever see it as something to support you through a time, but there has to be a plan to be able to give you the tools to still come out of this. And when they said, well, there wasn't one, and I'm like, well, how are you supposed to cope? And that's me not understanding the situation, because it's like, well, okay, yeah, you've reached out for help and I'm so proud that you've done that, but what's your path out? Because I'm solution orientated. I'm the person that always looks for the solution. How are we going to get through this? What's your next step? And well, I don't have one. I'm like, well, okay, so what happens then when things get tough? Do you have to be given a higher dose? So I'm asking all these questions now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for me and this family member, my husband, it was really tough. It was really, really, really tough. It was a tough time. It was so tough because energetically we're both very different too. And, you know, for me to want us to lean in and support him, and him wanting to try and do it himself, and wow, that was challenging. That was a really challenging part of our marriage.
Yeah, it's interesting that you should say, energetically, you're very different. Now, I know that you're not talking about your physical energy here.
No.
We're talking about something much, much deeper, aren't we?
Yeah.
It is difficult when you see people who are clearly struggling with these challenges. And I know from my own experience, I know when we spoke a little bit before we came on live here, and I explained about when I had a nervous breakdown, my nervous breakdown. I've owned it. I've accepted it. It happened.
Yep.
And I learned a lot through that, despite being almost unable to. It felt like I was unable to function for quite some time there. But I know from my friends at the time, from their side of things, it was frustrating for them. However, when you're there wanting to help somebody who's going through a difficult time mentally, your suggestions to that person are not necessarily the things that they want to hear. They're not necessarily openly receptive to those suggestions, and we can be full of well-meaning advice, because we can see that potentially that those things that we're suggesting would work, would help that person. But as I said, that person is not openly receptive to those suggestions. So what was the outcome of that? I mean, like you, I'm solutions based now. Well, I suppose I was back then as well. But how do you get to those solutions? How do you help someone get to those solutions?
Well, with my husband, we actually had to take some time apart from each other for a period of 3 months, because it just became too much to bear for both of us, actually, because it was just that part of our life. We talked about this on our wedding anniversary night a month or so ago. There's probably times in our life where we could have walked away from each other, and we probably should have at times also too. But the thing is one of us wanted to quit when the other didn't. So we had to take that break from each other and I often look back and reflect too, Kerry, that we were so young. We were only teenagers when we married. We had no life experience, so, and we went into being parents so very early in our life together. So we actually really didn't get an opportunity to know each other also except that you were a dad and I was a mum, and we were parents pretty much. And then we were husband and wife was pretty much second outside of that. So I would not change any of that in that for the world at all. And that 3 months apart just gave us time to breathe, I suppose, and reconnect and think about what actually is important for us.
Yeah.
And that was the space, I suppose, that we took to then come back and go, okay, are we in this or are we out of this? And what do we need to do differently to be in this? So it was all about support. And I had to, because I'm strong and I'm a driven person and I'm very direct, and my love can come with is a velvet hammer, you know. And I had to, I was the one that took a step back and stepped into Mark's space for a while. And we worked together.
Yeah.
You know, and we still have moments where it's full on, head on, but we have different ways in which to approach things also too. We communicate a lot differently. We're more effective. You know, Mark's from the generation where men don't feel.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Men don't have feelings. It's boys don't cry. Get up, get moving. Come on, don't be a sook, don't be a sissy. So, you know, there's a lot of, you know, stuff for him that he's been conditioned in, you know, from his tribal cycle that is part of him, and helping him feel safe, I think, is the biggest thing that I could give him, to know that he was safe and he was supported, and I was there to support him.
Yeah.
In whichever way he needed.
That's it. Support is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just giving that support, just accepting that is where somebody is right now.
Yeah.
And just being there, being that hand to hold.
Yeah.
You know, just being that person that's there with that other person. Even if you're not saying anything, sometimes that's all that's actually needed, isn't it?
Totally. And you would know about energy types. So I'm a DI and he is very much a CS. So we are like that. And I had some e-disc stuff done a little while back. And see, I can go on holidays and not plan a place to go and just wing it and you know, get accommodation, whereas he's all about the details. And it's like, well, where are we going? Oh, I haven't sorted anything. But what if there's nothing there? We'll be cool. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
He packs his bag. It's all streamlined. Mine's just chucked in. It's the same as our wardrobe, you know. So I have probably had to I've stepped back, and the coaching world has really helped me with this also too.
And tell us about that, because I understand that you are you're a master's weightlifter, and you're also an empowerment and fitness coach. So tell me a bit more about that.
So where I got up that hill and kept going up that hill 7 other times is when I thought, well, you know what? I think I've got something to give. I know that I always have wanted to serve and help people. And I just thought, okay, and what capacity is this now going to look like for me? So I became a fitness instructor through first a program called Les Mills. You may or may not have heard of it, and it's generally running gyms. So I started to do that, and in that time I also set goals to run some half marathons. So I did 2 of those, and then I got bored, sick of running, so I decided, well, let's do some bodybuilding. So I got into bodybuilding. So I dropped something like 47 kilos to get on stage in a little red bikini in the year that I turned 40. So wow. This month I turned 49. So 9 years ago. And that was also an interesting journey to take, because it was all about discipline and routine and I had to I had to focus so much on making sure that I had 7 meals a day. I had to meal prep. I had to train. So there was another level of discipline coming into my blueprint that I tap into. So then I did a bit of that, and then I decided to buy a gym, and I bought a CrossFit gym, and didn't know anything about owning a business. Didn't actually know anything about CrossFit either. I did it as a member, but as far as coaching it, had no idea. So just stepped out and hoped that for the best. And during that time, I fell in love with weightlifting because I thought, I don't want to run anymore. I don't want to have to bodybuild anymore. What now would I like to do around fitness? And I like to push the social norms also too. So here I am about to turn 49, and I thought, well, let's become a competitive weightlifter. And so I got into that, and this last year was the first year I competed in the sport of weightlifting, and it was amazing. It was so empowering because just the strength and the barbell, and I don't know if you're familiar with weightlifting, but it is just a really great way to just be in the moment. And it's just you and the barbell on that platform. And when your name is called with that weight and you're going out there to lift it up over your head, you take a big breath. And I can feel it now. And I've got the world's most amazing coach. He has supported me. He has hugged me. He has wiped my tears. He has been sworn at. I have been sworn at. We just have this amazing relationship that he too believed in me before I believed in myself to be able to do this sport. And we've had some fun times. And when you step onto that platform, the noise stops.
Wow.
The noise stops. And you hear the crowd go, yeah, and then you step on the platform, and there might be a few things you do. So I've got a little tick where I tap under my chin, I take a breath, I walk up, and I just present to the bar. I visualize what I need to do with the lift, and I do it. If I fail the lift, I'm okay with it. If I'm successful with the lift, I'm also okay with it. I'm there in the moment to just do the best that I can.
I was going to say it's not just the physical ability, is it? There's so much mental training that has to go on with
Totally.
that. And it's got to be absolutely spot on to be able to achieve what you want to achieve in that respect, isn't it? So tell me more about that. I'm very much intrigued. And is this kind of something that you pass on to other people as far as the empowerment is concerned?
Definitely. So with the space and the mental clarity, I suppose you just get that time to yourself to think of nothing else. You get to detach yourself from life. And you have to tap into the feelings in your body. And there's times where you are so out of breath that you think you're going to die, but you're actually connected to your body. And you can either choose to hyperventilate, but me as a coach, I can read my clients really well. So it's just like, just breathe and just pause. Just take the moment. And that also comes into your empowerment coaching with your client in front of you too, as they're feeling their feelings, and they're either trying to understand what it is, and it's just breathe. And breath is amazing in how much it can calm you and just bring you back to center. And then you can take the next step forward again. And I think we forget the power of the breath in the moment when we're caught in our head about something, and we just have to breathe and move on again.
We absolutely do simply forget to just breathe, don't we?
Yes.
And as you said, that it is so important. It's so important with just bringing it, as you say, back to center, bringing us back to ourselves.
Yeah.
What are we doing right at this moment? What is the most important thing for us to do right at this moment? And of course, it's to breathe.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Absolutely.
I love breathing meditations as well. And
Yes.
they're fantastic. Absolutely
They're
amazing.
awesome. Yes.
Yeah, fabulous. So I'm just reading through. I noted some bits down from your bio. So tell me a bit more about how you help others get fit from the inside out.
Ooh, well, this is why I made a big change last year after COVID, Kerry.
Mm-hmm.
And once we came out of lockdown, I decided, you know what? I'm selling my part of the gym. I've got a higher calling. When I reopened the doors to the space, to our gym, and look, we survived really well. I'm so grateful that we came through COVID really, really well in our gym space. But when we reopened, here I should be so grateful and so happy, and we'd made our space look amazing. My heart was heavy, and I was disconnected from the space. And for about 2 weeks, and mind you, I'd also disconnected from my coaching, my school, because I just did not have the energy to be able to bring a community through 13 weeks and adapt and change every day, and also have to then try to give to others in a coaching perspective. So I had to weigh up, and I thought, I am the most important person at this time to be able to help get this community through. So I need to fill my buckets as much as I can and keep them full, and just to focus on this. So that's why I decided, when I reopened and I was disconnected, I thought, you know what? I took some time to sit in the space, and a webinar came up, a learning weekend came back up, and it was about leadership. And I got him back into the space of learning, and just the feeling that just went through my body, and it just connected, and I was excited, and I was just like, I know where I need to be. I know what I need to do. I know what the decision is. So that's where I made the decision to sell my share of the gym.
Yeah.
And that was like a divorce. And I grieved for that it's been nearly 12 months. I probably have grieved that process, and I'm feeling it again, for 9 months. But stepping into the space now of being able to help people from the inside out is so much more rewarding than aesthetically from the outside. Because when you have clients that invest in you, but I lean into my clients too, and I find a little bit about them and where their comfort zone is, and then it's about stretching them out of that. And they actually really don't know I'm doing it. But then, we'll have a breakthrough and a win, and it's still with the fitness. And, I've had clients that haven't been able to jump on, only 3 inches, and then now they're jumping on 6 inches. That's a win. That's huge. That's empowering. It's like, look at me now. I have got a sense of achievement. I've got clients that haven't been able to have any weight on their barbell. They've got weight on their barbell now. I've got clients that haven't been able to run. They're running now. I've got a client that set a goal with me to run her first 5K ever. And she did, and she smashed it. She set her time to be something like an hour. And I was like, oh, girlfriend, you are going to nail that. And each week I had strength training for her. We had running. We had all sorts of things to build the strength that she needed physically and mentally too. It was also stretching her mentally to know that she could do this. And at times through her 5K run, she was going to want to have to quit. She wanted to do that. But it was tapping into these moments now that she will be able to, that will serve her to get her over that line. And she did her 5Ks in something crazy, like 23 minutes or something.
Wow.
It was stupid crazy fast. And just her message, her to me, and the message to the world she gave, that's more than anything, Kerry.
Yeah, that is just amazing.
Because I just put the shine and the confidence back in that girl who, throughout her short life so far, has lost some of that.
Yeah.
And now she knows she's unstoppable.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. So how, more to the point, what does empowerment look like from your perspective when you're faced with somebody who actually doesn't know what it is? Or how would you explain it to somebody that
Great question.
What is empowerment?
So basically, first of all, it's support. And as I was writing my message to the world, I empower women, and I was like, I support. And I support at the start, I think, is the better way to language it, because at the end, that's where they're empowered. And I think to somebody at the start who is in a space where they've forgotten their voice, or they've forgotten they matter, or they've forgotten their confidence, that's a really strong confronting word.
Yeah.
So I've got 2 clients at the moment, and they are amazing. They are amazing. And one of them, they both have anxiety. One has PTSD and depression. And their journey is amazing. Oh my God. You want to see empowered? These 2 are amazing. So they have showed up every day. And at the start, when we first connected, we had a conversation, and it was my testimony to them, I suppose, that I will be here to support you. And yeah, you'll want to swear, and yeah, there'll be days when you don't want to show up, and there'll be probably in about a month's time you'll want to quit when you're sore and it's all too hard and you don't know whether you can do this. But I'm here to tell you now that I'm not going to quit on you. So don't quit on me.
I think that kind of makes a difference, doesn't it? If you've got somebody there that's not prepared to just walk away from you, to be there to support you, to help you through it.
Yeah.
I think that really does give the other person the encouragement that they need, peace of mind, even.
Yeah.
That regardless of how they feel, there's one person that's always going to be there and help them through it. And it's knowing, not just knowing that, but knowing that with that support, actually, you can achieve absolutely anything you put your mind to.
And it's the belief. I have the belief in them, and they just have to believe in me to know that I'm going to get them to where they need to be and where they want to be. This week's, sorry.
I was just going to say, and that belief is so powerful, isn't it? It's kind of everything, really.
Yep. Because I've had people be there for me before, Kerry, when I didn't believe in myself. And now I'm that to people. Yeah. And I know what that support means. And now on the session that we caught up this week, because we're all in lockdown here in Australia, in New South Wales. And so we can't get out at the moment. So we're all now in different spaces. And the biggest stretch for one of my clients this week was that she then had to be in her space by herself. Right. The training partner couldn't be with there. She had to do this all by herself. And the courage that this woman showed and the ability to trust herself, to know that she knew what she was doing, was such a moment for her. And then it's also making sure you champion the shit out of them. Because
Absolutely.
also too, life tends to suck the joy out of you at times, and you need to have somebody in your corner that is your hype girl. And my weightlifting coach said to me a couple of weeks ago, he said, you know what, I've got a role for you. He said, you're the hype girl. You're the girl that everybody should have in their corner because you just get them up and moving. So I'm your hype girl. That's it.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. I love that. I love that phrase. You're their hype girl. That's brilliant. I love that.
I'm the hype girl. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's just amazing. I think from my own experiences and people I've encountered, certainly over the last 18 months, I guess, since all of this began, it's people I've spoken to, mostly online, admittedly, but people that I've spoken to, a lot of people that I've spoken to online, there's such a mix of believed abilities, and it is so important to have that support network around you.
Yep.
But it's also really, really important to make sure that you've got the right people in that support network as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Because
yes.
I say purely because, I mean, we could have somebody that's our oldest friend, maybe even our closest friend, but they're not necessarily the right person to be in that specific support network. It might even be a complete stranger that we need to have. When I say complete stranger, obviously somebody that we've perhaps only met once before, but we've felt that energetic connection with, that we need to have in our support network. So just to sort of wrap this up then, Veronica, I mean, I could sit and listen to you for hours. I really could.
I could talk to you for hours. I really could.
Well, we'll have to do this again then and go a little bit further, I think. But just to wrap this up, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to people right now who are perhaps sitting there thinking, you know what, I'm still not sure that I could, achieve some of these things that you've talked about? If somebody's got that dream that they'd really like to do it, but they just don't have that belief in themselves at the moment, what's the one piece of advice you would give to them?
You have to make the first step. You have to back yourself and trust yourself, and you have to take the first step. You need to make sure that first step is somebody who can support you. So you need to just reach out, and somebody will be there to hold your hand. And then the rest is easy. But you got to fight for yourself. I will fight for anybody, Kerry, but you've also got to come meet me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It can't all be one-sided, can it? No. It's going to be two ways. No. Veronica.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Your evening, our morning. I would absolutely love to chat with you further again on another time. So I think we'll have to rearrange. We'll have to arrange another one of these sessions.
Would love you. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, Kerry, to you and Adam reaching out. And it's just, I've got a message to share with the world, and it's just being able to help people connect with themselves and just reach out for help, because, you know,
Totally.
there's people there that want to help you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Veronica, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kerry.
Don't disappear. I'm going to put you in the back office, so to speak. I'll wrap this up. Be with you
I'm in the
shortly.
green room.
Back in the green room. That's the one.
Thank you so much.
Office, isn't it? Thank you, Veronica. Wow, what an amazing, amazing woman. And we will absolutely get her back for another one of these sessions. And thank you all for having joining us today, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching on the replay. And don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button as well. And we will see you all very soon.